My question is this the best looking Audi A3 Audi I've ever made? I don't know. You tell me in your comments below. I once owned an Audi S3 second generation model in this colour, and everyone knew where I was at all times. But the passage of time has erased my memory of how annoying it was, and I look at this colour and think it's absolutely gorgeous. Now this isn't a normal A3 in the sense that it is a plug-in hybrid. It is almost a 14 kilowatt hour battery, which will get you a range of somewhere around 50 kilometers on a charge, and that'll take you about 4 hours to charge it on a wall box. And you charge it very simply. Open your door here, whack in your Type 2 cable, and you can charge it up to 2.9 kilowatts, which will take the 4 hours. That's very, very slow. You can use this to charge it publicly in public spaces. I wouldn't advise this because you'll be hogging a highly sought after full EV spot and the driver may want to kill you. But yeah, you can charge that way, including your granny cable. You can use that too. This car is an S-Line, so you're getting black wing mirrors, S-Line badges, lovely big bright LED headlights, black grille on the front. It looks the absolute business. But this car will start at €43,000, and this one isn't anything like that. I've actually reviewed the petrol standard version of this car. If you want to check that video review out in more detail, it's up here. I commented at that time that the alloys are lovely but a little bit small. Same goes for here, really. Shark fin, aerial over the back, and a nice boot spoiler, and that brings you around to the back of the car. Again, it's just less curvy than previous A3s, and it's just got a more stronger presence or something. I absolutely think it's gorgeous. You've got privacy glass going on, of course, 40 TFSI badge with the E. That tells you it's the plug-in hybrid. And the boot, which you can get with a powered function. Every time I try and close it, it doesn't close properly. So I would highly recommend it, actually. It's not massive money compared to some of the things you can get. Now, here's a huge bag for all your cables. Your Type 2, big yellow one that's at home. This is your granny charger cable. Now, what has happened here is underneath this shelf is just hard metal and tons of batteries. So you can't actually put anything down here. I don't know why there is a shelf at all, to be honest with you. So that boot is definitely being compromised by the fact that it is a plug-in hybrid. They've got two nice handles here for helping you close the boot though, which I'm very grateful for. Closes on camera, of course. Back here is a weird one because your seats are nicely off the floor for rear passengers and their feet. You've got cutouts in the headlining for taller passengers, but it is quite snug. The back of those seats, Audi going to charge you almost €300 for some nets, €60 for some USB charging. There are two Isofix seats, of course, as well. It's a bit snug, especially compared to something like the Seat Leon. And thankfully, the back of the seats are decent quality plastic and very wipeable, because if you have toddlers in the back, they're going to kick the back of those seats. Trust me, I've been there. You get an armrest though. They don't charge any extra. You just can't jump into an Audi and not notice how good the fit and finish of them is. Physical buttons for everything, from climate control to drive modes to EV mode. Physical buttons for volume. The little nib that is definitely growing on me and looks very nice. Good storage for drinks under the armrests. That's adjustable. Really supportive S-Line leather seats. They're over €1,000 those seats are going to cost you if you want them finished in leather. Like everything in Audi, it all costs extra. But the interior is just every fit and finish, gaps, stitching. There's no one else making interiors like them as far as I'm concerned. These stalks on the indicators are straight out of the 100,000 plus e-tron GT. So there's some comfort in there almost. The steering wheel is massive. It's probably a little bit too big actually. And it's flat bottomed here and normal standard round at the top. Colour displays are very good. You'll flick the nav button in certain models and it'll say you haven't bought it. And that's where Audi are going with certain things, where they want you to subscribe to some features of the car, kind of use them as a pay-as-you-go type situation. Even the air vents, I mean, they're a little bit stuck on there and you're kind of going, is that the best place that could be? But the quality of it, the damping on the adjustments, it's all like, everything clicks. Everything works as it should. Powering this A3 is a 1.4 petrol that has about 148 brake horsepower. And then when you have the car charged and the battery, it adds on another 50 or so. And that brings the total to 201 brake horsepower, which is more than acceptable in a hatchback. It'll do 0 to 60 miles per hour in a little over 7 seconds. And it's not a million years ago since a Golf GTI had 200 brake horsepower, and that was your lot. So it's really not an underpowered car at all. And even when you're out of battery range, 150, it is more than adequate in a car of this size. If you go for the S-Line, which this one is, you'll get slightly less range. You'll also get a harsher ride. And that's not a good thing, because the wheels that are upgraded, the suspension setup on the S-Line, it's all just ending up in a slightly firmer, and then add in the weight of some batteries into that as well, and well, you can see where this is going. The fact that you can save some battery for later, charge the car on the go, or use it in full EV mode, it's really clever. So if you're driving on a motorway, which is going to use that battery quicker, but then you were driving into a city centre environment or near a school and you didn't want to have any emissions coming out of the car, just literally the touch the EV button, it's done. On the last hour of driving, I have 0.0 litres per 100 kilometres used. It will use like 24 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres. You're never going to get that range, of course. It's a much smaller battery. You'd be lucky if you get 50. If you do top up that battery every single night at home, you're going to run this car really, really cheaply, and you might never say never, but you know, you would be rarely visiting the garage for fuel. Despite the fact that it is a plug-in hybrid and you can feel a little bit of weight, pushing into corners and stuff is still quite enjoyable. So they've managed to get the balance of that right. It still feels like a hatchback. And that's a fairly decent achievement, because sometimes with crossovers, especially when you pump them full of batteries, it does compromise the handling of the car. I'm not saying it's going to be as good as a purely petrol A3, but it's not bad. Even if you're in normal petrol mode, by the way, that little E also does something else. It will gently move the car off in battery mode, and it means that stop-start transition is very, very smooth. Now, Volkswagen Group has been putting it into things like their new Golf. It's like mild hybrid assist technology, it's called, all kinds of different things. It's a very, very small battery that just eases the car into a smooth stop-start. It's not to confuse with a plug-in hybrid, it's not that, but this car has both. And it means, you know, in traffic it's very, very smooth. It's never jerky. It's so well behaved. And then if you want to have a bit of fun and unleash the 200 horses, you can do that as well. So it's actually a really good all-rounder from a driving perspective. There's not too much of a compromise given to the car. The main thing is, though, it is a hard enough setup, and an S-Line, you're going to pay for the gorgeous looks, the gorgeous wheels, the stiffer suspension. Don't think you're going to float around on a cloud, because you're not. If you just use the petrol range on it, you're still going to get 5 to 6 litres per 100 kilometres. Very, very acceptable. And if you use a combination of both, then as in just leave it in automatic hybrid mode, and that'll do petrol when it wants to, it'll do EV when it wants to, then you'll get somewhere between late 2 and 3.5 litres per 100 kilometres. So very smooth. But then when you have it charged and you put the foot down, there's actually great mid-range torque in it. The transition between hybrid and petrol is also excellent. It's so smooth, gearbox silky. You can do the paddles on it if you want. The regen works around in the background. You don't control how severe that is. You'll see it the odd time doing its thing, but you've no input whatsoever as to how effective or how severe the regen recuperation charging is. But this kind of stop-start city centre type traffic, a plug-in hybrid like this eats that kind of traffic up. When those lights go green, you can really power on away from the lights, and it picks up really decent pace actually. The A3 is just as classy as ever, and the PHEV is no different. Just be prepared, like every Audi, to pay for everything. This version of the A3, it really pumps the price up. 43,000 euro. You can get a Golf for almost 20 grand cheaper. It won't buy this level of class. Obviously the Golf plug-in hybrid does start around about 36 grand, so you know, actually there's maybe 7 grand in the difference to jump into an Audi badge. It is absolutely gorgeous. 50 kilometer range, zero emission driving if you want, but like so many Audis, you are going to pay for it. It's gorgeous though. Thanks for watching.